You think you've seen martial arts demos, the crisp forms, the breaking boards, the respectful bow at the end. But at a crowded demonstration in the 1960s, a champion in the audience didn't just watch Bruce Lee. He laughed, he smirked, elbows, on his knees, waiting for the show to end. Then Bruce stopped mid-motion, turned, and walked straight toward him. And in the next 60 seconds, that champion learned the difference between a demonstration and a lesson. The disrespect began before Bruce Lee even threw his first strike. It was the 1960s, and Bruce was invited to demonstrate his martial art, Jun Fan Gung Fu, at a major event in the San Francisco Bay Area. The crowd was a mix of curious onlookers, traditional martial artists, and a few champions from various fighting disciplines. Among them sat a man known for his prowess in competition, a respected fighter with titles and trophies to his name. His reputation preceded him, and he made sure everyone in his vicinity knew it. From the moment Bruce stepped onto the demonstration floor, this champion made his disdain visible. He crossed his arms, leaned back in his chair, and let out a loud, deliberate laugh. It was not a chuckle of appreciation or a noise of surprise. It was the laugh of dismissal, the kind of scoff reserved for something you believe is a joke. He then turned to the people sitting next to him, whispered something, and pointed at Bruce with a smirk still plastered across his face. The message was clear. He thought Bruce Lee was all show, no substance. He saw a relatively young, slender man in a tight black kung fu uniform moving through chi-sao drills and rapid-fire punches, and he decided it was theater. For him, real fighting meant tournament rules, protective gear, and point systems. Bruce's fluid, close-range trapping and explosive one-inch punch seemed like parlor tricks. He laughed again, louder this time, as Bruce demonstrated how to break a wooden board not by recoiling the fist but by striking from just an inch away. The champion shook his head and made a comment about party tricks that was audible enough to ripple through the nearby rows. Some people nervously glanced at Bruce, who had clearly heard, but Bruce did not stop. He continued his demonstration with the same intense focus, showing intercepting punches, low kicks to the shin, and non-telegraphic strikes. The champion, emboldened by Bruce's lack of immediate reaction, laughed once more, this time leaning forward, slapping his knee and gesturing to others as if to say, "Can you believe people fall for this?" It was the public humiliation of an artist by a fighter who believed he knew better. He did not see Bruce Lee as a master. He saw him as an actor, a showman, a man playing at combat. That miscalculation would cost him. Because Bruce Lee was not ignoring the laughter. He was cataloging it. He was waiting for the right moment, not to prove a point with words, but to erase the smirk with action. And in that room full of witnesses, the champion had no idea that his loudest laugh would become the starting bell for the shortest, most unforgettable lesson of his life. The split-second transition from demo to real confrontation happened so fast that most people in the room did not even register what was occurring. Bruce Lee had been calmly continuing his demonstration, showing precise hand techniques and fluid footwork, when he paused mid-motion. He had heard every laugh, every whispered insult, every mocking gesture from the champion seated near the front. But he did not react with anger. He did not stop the demonstration to argue. Instead, he simply turned his head, locked eyes with the laughing fighter, and began walking directly toward him. The crowd grew quiet. The champion's smirk faded, slightly replaced by confusion. Bruce did not run, shout, or clench his fists. He walked at a normal pace, his expression unreadable, his body completely relaxed. He stopped about 2 feet in front of the seated champion and spoke in a calm, quiet voice that somehow carried through the silent room. He said something along the lines of, "You think that's funny? You want to see if it works?" The champion hesitated. He looked around at the other spectators, then back at Bruce. The laughter was gone. In its place was the sudden, cold realization that this was no longer a performance. Bruce then did something unexpected. He did not assume a fighting stance or issue a formal challenge. Instead, he simply raised one hand, palm open, and gestured for the champion to stand up. That gesture was the trigger. It shifted the energy of the entire room from observation to anticipation. The champion, now feeling the pressure of every pair of eyes, rose to his feet. He was bigger than Bruce, broader in the shoulders, and clearly accustomed to physical confrontation. He tried to recover his bravado, putting his hands up in a conventional guard, probably expecting a traditional sparring exchange with rules and distance. But Bruce was already inside that guard before the champion could even settle into his stance. The transition from demonstration to reality was not marked by a bell or a referee. It was marked by Bruce closing the gap in a single, explosive step. He did not circle or feint. He violated every expectation of how a formal challenge match should begin. Within that split second, the champion's training betrayed him. He was used to sport fighting, to measuring distance, to waiting for an opening. Bruce Lee operated on a different clock. He moved first, moved fast, and moved without warning. The demonstration was over. The real lesson had begun. And the champion, still half expecting a theatrical exchange, suddenly found himself trapped in a range he did not understand, facing an opponent who had already stopped pretending. The aftermath and what the champion admitted later became a story that circulated quietly through martial arts circles for years. Witnesses said the entire confrontation lasted no more than 45 seconds from the moment Bruce Lee walked toward the champion until the moment it ended. What exactly happened in those seconds depends on who tells the story, but all versions agree on one thing: the champion did not land a single clean hit. Bruce moved inside the man's guard with a lightning-fast straight punch that stopped just an inch from the champion's face, then immediately followed with a low kick to the shin that made the larger man stumble backward. Before the champion could recover his balance, Bruce trapped his leading arm, delivered a palm strike to his chest, and swept his front foot out from under him. The champion landed hard on the mat, flat on his back with Bruce standing calmly over him. There was no second round. There was no rematch. The champion lay there for a few seconds, staring up at the ceiling, his face flushed not just from the fall, but from the sudden, brutal clarity of what had just happened. He got up slowly, rubbing his shin and his pride. And then came the confession that no one expected. The champion did not make excuses. He did not blame the mats, the lighting, or claim he had been caught off guard. Instead, he walked over to Bruce Lee, extended his hand, and said something that witnesses later described as both humble and stunned. According to multiple accounts, he admitted, "I've never been moved like that in my life." Another version quotes him saying, "I couldn't even see your hand." What he revealed in those private words after the public lesson was that he had completely underestimated Bruce Lee's speed, power, and most importantly, his range control. The champion later told his own students that Bruce had closed a distance faster than anyone he had ever faced, that the 1-inch punch he had laughed at earlier felt like being hit by a cinder block when applied to his chest, and that the sweeping technique had been executed so smoothly he did not realize he was falling until he was already on the ground. He admitted that every laugh he had let out was born of ignorance. He had judged Bruce Lee by tournament standards, by size and showmanship, not by the reality of combat. The aftermath also revealed something about Bruce. He did not humiliate the champion further. He did not lecture the audience or declare himself the victor. He simply accepted the handshake, nodded once, and returned to his demonstration as if nothing had happened. But the room had changed. No one laughed after that. And the champion sat back down in silence, rubbing his chest where the palm strike had landed, forever carrying the memory of the moment his laughter turned into a lesson he would never forget.